Hi, I'm Alex, and literally every single one of my friends has told me that I should share this story that happened to me, like with the world. I've been thinking about it for a while, and here I am. Let's do this. My parents are very rich people, and I'm not telling this to you like I'm bragging. It's not a rich kid thing at all. It's more than that. I am not a rich kid at all. Yeah, you heard that right. With my parents being crazy rich, I'm actually pretty poor. I live in a small guest house with minimal furniture besides my parents' mansion. I get a ridiculously small amount of allowance money, and I don't feel rich at all. Okay, I guess I've got some stuff to explain here. My parents are self-made people. That's what they like to say, and it's basically true. They both started from the bottom, their families were always struggling, and they met when they were very young, way before they earned their fortune. They started a business, which over several years grew to be two different companies, both pretty big. They basically had two weddings. The first one, when they were young and poor, and the second one, at an ultra-luxurious resort in the Bahamas years later. I mean, I've only seen the video. I was 10 and I was not invited. Here's where we get to the important part. I was never a part of the family, financially. My parents have always been sure that if I got exposed to money growing up, I would grow up spoiled, lazy, selfish, arrogant, like that idiot rich kid from any school movie. Apparently, each of them had a guy during their school years who was a total moron and who happened to come from a rich family. I don't know the details because they were never really willing to talk about it, but the idea that money spoils children has stayed with them for years. So, okay, now that you know the background, let's get into the story. It started at one of my parents' famous parties. Every week, there's either a party or a reception, or whatever you call it, at their house. They love stuff like that, and they like saying that they earned these nights with their hard work. Needless to say, I'm almost never invited to these occasions since, first, I have to go to sleep early to be disciplined, and, of course, because of the money thing. Sometimes I would just crash those parties and chat with people until my dad noticed, or sabotage them by turning off all the lights or something. I had nothing to lose, really. That day was one of those days. My parents are friends with a couple who have a daughter. Her name is Cecilia. She's 16, and I've seen her around a couple of times. I even talked to her once at my friend's birthday. She's really cute and funny, and she always comes over with her parents. Again, how messed up is that? Kids my age and even younger come to my parents' parties all the time, and I have to be in the guest house and go to sleep at 10. So this time, I snuck in again. Cecilia was there, and I started talking to her. Everything was going fine, until my dad showed up. When he saw me, he went even crazier than usual. He shouted at me, saying I wasn't supposed to be there, and that I was supposed to be in bed already. It was so embarrassing that it actually felt painful, like I was a 2-year-old or something. Everyone heard it, and Cecilia did too, of course. I couldn't even say anything. I just walked out of the room in total silence. That night, something broke inside of me. Like, I probably should have come to this conclusion long ago, but I could not go on like this. Something had to be done. Pretty soon, I realized that what I needed most of all was money. It would have solved a lot of problems. I could do whatever I wanted. Well, not literally whatever I wanted, but you get the point. After looking for a part-time job for a while and not finding anything good, I decided I needed to start some kind of business, like my parents did years ago. And what happened next was pretty unbelievable. I'll try to make this short. My parents have a friend, let's call him Mr. J, and he's a businessman too. He has a company that has something to do with real estate, but as a hobby, he runs a small vinyl record shop, like as a side project. He told me that in the 70s, he was in a rock band and thought that music was his life. But then the times changed and their band didn't take off. So he had to leave the idea of a music career behind. And the record shop was his connection to that world he had to leave. So I had this idea. I knew that some of my friends were also trying to collect vinyl records, get record players, and all that. So I thought that I could negotiate with Mr. J to get some of his records on credit and sell them to people I knew. He happily agreed. I asked him not to tell my parents, and he understood me. since all of my parents' friends knew about their parenting methods. Now I see that I had literally zero reasons to start selling vinyl records, but I guess I just got lucky. First, my friends and classmates bought a couple of them. That got me a little more money than I get from my parents, because I had to give most of my revenue to Mr. J for the records. But then pretty slowly I started to get new clients. Not just friends or guys from my school, but also friends of friends, their moms and dads, weird uncles and hippie grandpas. I don't want to overstate my success, but at some point it seemed that there was even some kind of trend for vinyl records at my school, specifically because I was selling them. Anyway, at some point I realized that I had started to earn enough money to move out and rent an apartment for a couple of months. But from the day I started the whole thing, I knew what I wanted to do when I got my first decent profits. I wanted to throw a party right inside my guest house, 200 feet from my parents' house. And the party would be so big, pompous, and loud that it would definitely get their attention. And then, well, you'll see what was supposed to happen. It took me a while to organize everything, but now I had money. So making it work was just about the technical details. The party was not only for teenagers, but for adults too, and everyone was supposed to keep it a secret. It was supposed to be flawless. I mean, even though I was not invited to most of my parents' parties, I had surely learned something about organizing them over the years. I think I invited about 50 people, and almost all of them were able to make it. People were inside the guest house, outside the guest house, and the party was going great. It was mind-blowing that so many different people were here, at my place. From my parents' best friends, Cecilia was there too, of course, to my childhood friend Tom, who was asking to put on his favorite black metal band for the whole night. I have a separate entrance, so my parents did not even notice the party until after it had already started. And that, of course, was part of my plan. 15 minutes after I put on some loud music, they came to see what was going on. They seemed surprised, but they were not angry. As people who knew something about throwing parties, they were impressed by what I had set up. They wanted to get in and see what was going on inside. But that was where the final part of my plan came in. I met them right at the gates of the party zone and told them that it was a closed event and that they could not get in. I was ready for them to start a fight, but they just smiled and walked away, back to their own house. I did not expect that at all, and it kind of bugged me for the whole night. But the party was still amazing nonetheless, and I got excellent feedback. Cecilia seemed to like it more than anybody. When I went to my parents' house for breakfast the next morning, which does not happen on the weekends, I was still expecting an argument, but they seemed even happier than usual. Here's the thing. I did not think that the whole record business thing would get back to them, but it did. So for the last month, they knew what was going on, and they were happy that I had finally started to earn money. And when they saw how big the party was, they realized that my business was going pretty well. And that was what they were trying to achieve for all these years. They wanted me to be motivated like they were when they were young and determined to get out of poverty. In addition, there was a really important thing that came to my mind that night. Selling vinyl records like I did had pretty limited potential, to be honest, but I really liked the whole process of putting on a party. And of course, I love seeing people have fun, getting to know each other, dancing, talking, having a great time at an event I organized. So I've been thinking about doing this, not just for myself, but for other people too, as a job. I haven't received any orders yet. I haven't even told anybody other than my parents. This is way more serious than selling records, so I gotta prepare way better. I'm still not sure about how I should feel about this, but what I do know is that since all of this happened, my parents are not that strict anymore. They're okay with me being at their parties, and they give me much more freedom. I guess they just got what they wanted with me. I'm not saying that they were right by doing it their way, but now I know that if you don't like something in your life, you have to act. Do something and change it. Thanks for watching, guys. If you ever thought of starting a business at school, share your thoughts in the comments. I'd really like to see what kind of ideas other people have, since it took me a while to come up with my own.